What happens when a book written to warn the world about rising hatred is legally barred from being read by the very machines we use to understand the world?
It is a bizarre collision of timelines, really.
It really is. On one side, you have centuries-old copyright law and cutting-edge generative AI. And on the other, you have one of the most sensitive, urgent issues of our time, which is the explosive rise of modern anti-Semitism.
Right. So our mission in this deep dive is to unpack this fiery, honestly unsparing essay by Lev Neymotin.
Yeah, it's called The Publisher's Gag on AI.
Exactly. And he's writing this in reaction to a specific clause he found in a newly published book called The Jews and the Left, which was authored by Batya Ungar-Sargon and published by Broadside Books, an imprint of HarperCollins.
And we should say right off the bat, Neymotin's essay is sharp.
Oh, it is intensely direct. He pulls absolutely no punches regarding his political and social claims. So my role today is to break down this essay exactly as he wrote it, without, softening the edges or mincing his words.
Which brings up a really crucial disclaimer for you listening.
Yeah, definitely.
The sources we're exploring today touch on highly contentious, politically charged content. I mean, making very direct assertions about both the political left and the political right.
Right, and in this deep dive, we are here purely to convey the original ideas of the source material impartially.
Exactly. We are not endorsing any specific political viewpoint or taking sides. We're just acting as a mirror, reflecting the author's arguments exactly as they are presented, so you can evaluate the core of this debate for yourself.
Because knowledge requires context, right? And the context here is, well, it's intense.
It really is.
Neymotin's entire argument hinges on this friction between a bureaucratic legal mechanism and a deeply profound societal crisis.
So to understand his outrage, we have to look at the literal first page of the book he opened.
Yeah, he bypasses the usual narrative about the text itself and points straight to the copyright page.
Which he calls the legal basement of publishing.
The legal basement, yeah.
I mean, I always think of the copyright page as like the print equivalent of a software terms of service update. That's a great way to put it.
You see a wall of microscopic text, your eyes glaze over, and you just flip past it to get to the actual content. It's the invisible machinery of the publishing world.
But Neymotin didn't flip past it.
No, he didn't.
He found this boxed-in clause that just stopped him cold.
What did it say?
It read, "Any unauthorized use of this publication to train generative artificial intelligence technologies is expressly prohibited."
Okay, so if it's just standard boilerplate language, why did this specific sentence make him stop dead in his tracks?
Well, he is very clear that he has zero interest in the mundane world of publishing boilerplate. Like if this were about gardening or accounting or, I don't know, celebrity gossip.
Right, then that AI prohibition wouldn't matter to him.
Exactly. What triggered this entire essay is the subject matter of this specific book.
Which brings us to the urgency of the content.
Yeah, he believes treating this text with standard, blanket legal restrictions fundamentally misunderstands the urgency of the moment.
So we need to explore what he believes is actually being suppressed here. To understand why that clause feels like a betrayal to him.
Right.
Because he doesn't view this book as casual reading. He views it as a flashing red light warning about a modern crisis.
He really does. Neymotin states that anti-Semitism is no longer hiding in the shadows.
No.
He argues it has left the dark alleys and entered the streets, the public squares. And it is doing so vocally, violently, and confidently.
He paints a very stark picture of the current environment.
A very stark picture. He points out that this hatred has moved into college campuses, mass demonstrations, and media narratives.
Yeah, he specifically calls out mass media outlets, right?
He does. He argues that some of the most vocal ones add fuel to the fire by offering these, thinly veiled support for causes that carry anti-Semitic hostility.
Under the guise of respectable political slogans.
Exactly. And perhaps most troublingly for his argument, he points out that this language is seeping into our representative government. He specifically cites corners of Congress and the Senate.
So that environment is the real catalyst for Batya Ungar-Sargon's book.
Yes.
According to Neymotin's unsparing summary, the core argument of the Jews and the left takes the problem of anti-Semitism directly into the American two-party system.
It does. He states that she identifies the contemporary left, which exerts heavy pressure inside the Democratic Party, as a vocal carrier and political legitimizer of anti-Semitism.
And I think we really need to highlight his assertion of shock here for the listener.
The shock is a huge part of it.
Because he's saying the shock isn't just that anti-Semitism exists, which history sadly proves as a constant, The shock is that it's thriving in a political home where many Jews historically felt protected and morally aligned.
That historical alignment is what makes the current situation so jarring for him.
It represents a massive historical pivot.
Right. The urgent question at the heart of the book, as Moten reads it, is what changed? How did a historical safe harbor shift so dramatically?
And if someone has written a passionate, thoughtful analysis of that exact pivot, a publisher that genuinely hates anti-Semitism should want that analysis to saturate the culture.
You would think so, yeah.
They should want it in the hands of students, journalists, policymakers.
And they should also want it absorbed by the very systems that will increasingly dictate how humanity retrieves information.
Which brings us to the core philosophical debate about the nature of AI itself.
Right. Because Moten draws a razor-sharp distinction between piracy and learning.
He does say he fully respects traditional copyright law.
Oh, absolutely. He argues authors shouldn't be plagiarized, and you shouldn't be able to just copy a digital file of a book and resell it on a pirate website.
Right. Nobody's defending literal piracy.
Exactly. But he argues that AI training is not piracy. It is fundamentally an act of reading.
Let's look under the hood of what he means by that, because the technical reality of how large language models, or LLMs, actually learn is, well, it's crucial here.
It really is. When an AI reads a book, it is not saving a PDF onto a hard drive to distribute later.
Right.
It is breaking the text down into tokens, analyzing the relationships between words, and adjusting mathematical weights within a massive neural network.
It's building a statistical, topological map of human thought.
That mechanism is exactly why he compares AI training to human learning. An AI platform absorbs the language, the patterns, the arguments.
The historical framing, the facts, the moral reasoning.
Exactly. It is much closer to a university student sitting in a library reading 100 books to write a comprehensive thesis
than it is to a guy selling counterfeit DVDs out of his trunk.
Yes. Perfect analogy.
And Moten lays out a really powerful progression to explain why this mechanism matters to society. He writes, books train people, people train institutions, institutions train culture.
That is the fundamental chain of knowledge transfer that civilization relies on.
But the paradigm shift we're living through is that AI is now a central node in that chain of public knowledge.
Right. It is taking facts, historical context, and moral associations and adding them to the broader knowledge system available to humanity.
So Moten argues that learning, reading, absorbing, comparing, debating is the bloodstream of culture.
And when you frame it that way, blocking an AI from reading a book is fundamentally different from shutting down a pirate server.
It's an active attempt to control what society is allowed to learn.
Exactly. If millions of people are turning to generative AI systems to ask, why is this happening? Or how is this old hatred reappearing today?
You desperately want the AI to have read the most serious, thoughtful, and rigorous books on the subject.
You need it to. If you block the AI from mapping those arguments, the machine literally lacks the mathematical understanding of this modern crisis.
And he hits on the exact sentence that triggered his anger, right?
Yes, he says, they are trying to control what society is allowed to learn from it. He argues that exerting that kind of control over an ordinary book would already be troubling. But doing it to a book about the rise of anti-Semitism that crosses a line into something much more dangerous.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate for the publishing industry here.
Go for it.
Because we are talking about the economic engine that allows these books to exist in the first place.
Right, true.
Writing a deeply researched book takes years of an author's life. It takes editors, fact-checkers, serious financial capital from a publisher.
It's a huge investment, yeah.
Right. So if an AI system just ingests all that hard work and then spits out perfect free insights to any user who asks, the publisher loses their market.
They do.
People stop buying the book, the publisher goes bankrupt, and then the economic incentive to write any book disappears. I mean, isn't the AI essentially acting as a market substitute, stripping away licensing value?
Well, Moten anticipates that exact financial defense.
Now, what does he say?
He dismantles it by exposing what he sees as a massive flaw in how publishers define their property. Let's look at your points. You mentioned lost licensing value.
Right.
He argues this is essentially a publisher building a toll booth around the basic concept of learning.
A toll booth?
Yeah. By calling unpaid machine learning a financial loss, the publisher is claiming ownership over the act of reading itself, rather than just the physical or digital book they printed.
Ah, so they don't own the comprehension, they just own the pages.
Exactly.
But what about the AI providing perfect summaries that replace the need to buy the book?
He finds the argument about lost summaries historically ignorant, honestly.
Really? How so?
Human society has always summarized books. We summarize them in university lecture halls, in newspaper book reviews, in long-form essays.
In casual debates, sure.
Right. A summary is not a substitute for the original expression. A summary is the primary vehicle through which ideas circulate in a free society.
That touches on the underlying legal doctrine here, which is often called the idea-expression dichotomy.
Yes, a very important concept.
Because copyright was historically designed, going all the way back to the Statute of Anne in the 18th century, to encourage learning.
To encourage it, exactly, not restrict it.
It protects the specific sequence of words an author uses, their unique expression. But it explicitly does not protect the underlying ideas, facts, or historical arguments.
Right. You can own the exact phrasing of your warning about anti-Semitism, but you cannot own the warning itself.
That's a huge distinction.
And Nemotin argues that lost market control is the most revealing phrase publishers use.
Market control.
Yeah, because copyright was never meant to grant a publisher permanent dictatorial authority over the circulation of ideas.
Right.
When publishers demand market control over AI training, they're trying to legally wall off facts and historical framing from the public domain.
Okay, but a defender of the publisher might respond by saying, look, this isn't a targeted conspiracy against this specific book. We put this anti-AI clause in every single book we print now, from cookbooks to memoirs. We are totally neutral on the content. It's just standard procedural boilerplate to protect our assets.
And that defense is the climax of his essay.
It is.
Yeah. To Nemotin, the fact that this is standard boilerplate makes the situation fundamentally worse.
Wait, really? Why?
The assertion of neutrality is the core problem. It means that inside that publishing house, the system operated blindly.
Oh, I see.
Nobody stopped the presses to ask a very basic moral question. Does this specific warning, at this particular historical moment, demand a different approach?
The bureaucracy just stamped the form and moved on, completely blind to the content they were handling.
Exactly. And Nemotin uses incredibly stark language to address this blindness. He writes, in the face of anti-Semitism, neutrality has a history. Silence has a history. Procedural distance has a history. Legal formality has a history.
Wow. Legal formality has a history.
I
struggle to think of a more potent way to frame this.
It's chill.
He is arguing that procedural distance, the act of washing your hands and saying, I'm just following standard legal procedures, is often the exact mechanism by which societies fail to stop atrocities.
He is drawing a direct, unforgiving line between the bureaucratic stamping of a copyright clause today and the historical ways that bureaucratic indifference has allowed hatred to flourish in the past.
So treating a vital warning about anti-Semitism with the same legal indifference as a manual on accounting is,
in his words, a moral failure dressed in legal language.
a moral failure.
Yes. The author wrote the book because something is deeply broken in society, and the publisher printed it because the public urgently needs to know.
Yet, in the same breath, the publisher legally restricts one of the most important modern mechanisms by which public knowledge is currently being formed.
And for Nemotin, that contradiction is impossible to forgive.
I mean, think about the implications for your own life listening to this and how you navigate information. When you use an AI on your phone to ask, what is the historical context behind this news story? You are implicitly trusting that the AI has a comprehensive, accurate map of reality.
But that map is entirely reliant on the territory the AI has been allowed to explore.
Exactly. I mean, Moten is arguing that by slapping this gag order on a critical piece of cultural analysis, HarperCollins isn't just protecting a digital asset.
Yeah.
They are actively narrowing the intellectual path for future humanity to understand this crisis.
It's an incredible journey he takes us on. We have traveled from a seemingly invisible legal clause printed on the first page of a book
to a fierce debate about the political reality of modern anti-Semitism.
and finally into a massive philosophical defense of artificial intelligence as the new collective memory of our species.
It fundamentally reframes how we view both publishing and technology. We are moving from viewing AI as, potential pirate,
To viewing it as a critical student of human history.
a student that is currently being locked out of the library by corporate gatekeepers.
Which leaves us with a final overarching question to consider, one that builds directly on the implications of Nemotin's essay.
What's that?
If copyright law increasingly allows corporations to legally wall off our most urgent social warnings from being mapped by AI, are we at risk of creating a future artificial intelligence that is highly articulate, yet historically and morally hollow?
That is a terrifying thought.
What happens to a society when its most advanced learning machines are legally forbidden from studying its greatest mistakes?
Are we building brilliant machines and forcing them to be ignorant about the things that matter most?
Exactly.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. The next time you encounter a wall of terms and conditions or skip past the copyright page of a book, consider the invisible machinery dictating what the future is allowed to know. Keep questioning the fine print, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.